Hey YouTube, this is Alexander, and today I'm going to be giving you my thoughts on whether or not the Nexus 4 is still a good buy. So let's go ahead and get started. So I just want to quickly say that this video is going to be structured very similarly to the way that I did my thoughts on whether or not the Nexus 5 is still a good buy, which will be linked down below in the description in case you guys want to check that out. But first up, we're going to be talking about the design or the hardware and the appearances of the device. So here I've got my Nexus 4, and I gotta say that the Nexus 4 has held up pretty nicely. I've had it since about when it came out, which is about 2 years now, and I gotta say that it's been pretty durable actually. I have dropped it twice, two major drops that I can remember. One was on tile, straight on the front panel that I may have mentioned in my original video when I was talking about the Nexus 4, my unboxing and review, and then again on sort of a pavement surface in my garage, which actually did chip the side corner right here. But other than that, the Nexus 4 has held up really nicely against weathering and the normal days of usage and drops like I mentioned. The curved edges along the side actually are really nice, and that's something that I really miss of the Nexus 4 when I'm using my Nexus 5 and any other device that I may be using. It just feels really nice when you're sliding your finger across the screen from the edge. It just really allows your finger to easily glide over from the very edge off of the display onto the display. And the back, which by the way you guys aren't going to really notice here because I've actually got a skin on here. I know I've mentioned it a couple times, but this is the D brand skin for the Nexus 4. It's the red carbon fiber in case you guys are interested in this, which I'll have a link to down below. But the back of the Nexus 4 without a skin has a really nice speckled pattern to it that looks beautiful. And I gotta say that it is fragile. If you guys aren't too careful with it. I was very careful and I never shattered it or anything like that. I just decided to put this on because I thought it looked pretty slick. But either way, you're going to get a really nice back and front of the Nexus 4, and I really enjoyed the glass when this thing came out. So moving on to the performance of the Nexus 4, I would say that it's actually pretty good for being a device that's about 2 years old now. As you guys may have seen in my Android 5.0 Lollipop overview on the Nexus 4 video, I mentioned that Smash It did have a couple hiccups when I was playing the game, and I'm sure that's going to hold true for other intensive games like Smash It and even more intensive ones. But of course, doing daily things like browsing the web, checking Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or Google Plus or whatever you guys are doing on the daily should be nice and smooth, especially with Android 5.0 Lollipop. Lollipop has really done wonders for the Nexus 4, I would say. It's really smoothed out the OS on the Nexus 4 quite nicely, and it definitely helps to bring it up to the top of the stack as far as device performance goes. However, you are going to notice a few hiccups and lags and stutters and things like that here and there throughout the OS as you're doing more heavy intensive things that maybe devices of today, late 2014 and probably into 2015, can handle without a hitch. So that is something to keep in mind if you guys are thinking about buying a Nexus 4 or keeping your Nexus 4 as opposed to getting a Nexus 5, a 6, or any other more current device. Now something unfortunately that I don't have too much to say about is the battery. Now the battery never was too great on the Nexus 4. It was also kind of small when it came out considering the other sizes at that time, but I have seen mixed comments about the battery life with Android 5.0. Somebody actually told me that it was better than on Android 4.4 KitKat, and I've heard someone say that it was worse now that they've gotten Lollipop. So I guess the verdict is still out, at least for what I'm thinking. So if you guys would like to, and you guys actually have a Nexus 4 and are running 5.0 Lollipop, leave a comment down below, because it'll definitely help anybody else watching this video to know whether or not the battery life, is as good as some people say or as bad as some people say. But anyway, I can't really comment too much on the battery life just because it's not my daily driver. Now the camera is something that actually was never too good on the Nexus 4 as well, unfortunately. I do like the design of it. It's really out of the way, I would say. It's just a very nondescript sort of design for the camera. The flash is, the ring around the flash and the whole body for the flash is sort of bigger than the camera up here, which is something that I really enjoyed. It was flat, so it didn't protrude, which is something that I really enjoyed whenever I put it on a flat surface. I didn't have to worry about wobbling like on the Nexus 5 or some other devices. But unfortunately, it was never that great, and I think it did get some improvement to it, but it was never anything that was going to throw it up to the top as far as camera performance goes, which is again a little unfortunate, but nothing I would say that is actually really huge that would keep one from using it as a daily driver. So pretty much to wrap everything up, I would say that the Nexus 4 is still a really good device for the following people. If you're somebody who already has a Nexus 4 and you're content with it and you don't really see the need to upgrade or have the latest and greatest Nexus 6 or Nexus 5 or any other device, I would say that it's still a really nice device, and if you are content with it, I really would hesitate to recommend upgrading. If you don't mind the camera and the battery life just suits you fine and you're good with the performance, then I really don't see a huge need to upgrade just because some of the other devices have a faster processor in them, or more gigs of RAM, or a higher res display. Also, if you're somebody who's got a Nexus 4 already and it's going to be more expensive to upgrade or jump to a Nexus 5 or a Nexus 6, or like I said, any other device, this would also be still a good contender, I would say, for you. It is, I believe, cheaper on some sites than the Nexus 5 and Nexus 6 especially, so this is definitely still a good device for people who are looking for something a little bit more cheap, but it still definitely has some nice performance characteristics. And finally, of course, there's always the size difference. The Nexus 4 is definitely a nice, easy device to hold, at least I think so. When I first got it, it was a behemoth to me, but as you can see now, I'm pretty much, comfortable using it in one hand, and it's really not a bother for me. So if that's another reason you guys are a little wary about the giant behemoths that are coming out today, and you guys are, again, fine with your Nexus 4, you like how comfortable it is to use with one hand, then definitely I would say, it's probably good for another year or so. So anyway, that's pretty much going to end the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe down there for more, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.